represents is a HelpSeeker. So they do technologies and innovation in Canada. But this is in a social sector, and innovations could be still introduced everywhere, especially they are needed in social sector. So potential of technology, well, sounds very nice. Which potential you want to, show us or maybe downgrade it? Sometimes, not everything is innovative that we try to implement in our life.
Great. Well, thanks for having me, everyone. My name's Matt Parker. I'm the EVP of Innovation at HelpSeeker. And so today I want to talk a bit more about how we've used technology really to help with one of the core problems in the Canadian system, which is system navigation. So we'll go through kind of who we are and what we do, the specific problem we're trying to confront, and then finally kind of like how we've, I wouldn't say we've solved the problem, but how we've made it much easier to navigate the system and the knock-on effects that it's had. So I'll just share my screen here. Great. So one thing we always like to do is in Canada, we do live in the territories of a number of Indigenous peoples. And so we always like to do a land acknowledgement. And so for us, sorry, I'm just trying to get this set up.
Not listening to you.
Oh, sorry?
I thought you were trying to put this on a full screen. Can you try to press it? So it was kind of not listening to you. For us, it's, especially for people who has a small screen, it's really important that they can, that we don't see this kind of next slide, but we see the full screen of the current slide. You understand what I mean?
Can you see it now?
We see also this kind of preview of the next slides, but can we please put this full screen mode?
Yes, that should solve it.
Yeah, now it is. Yeah, thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
Perfect. Oh, no, not a problem. So we like to acknowledge the land we live on. Canada historically has had a number of Indigenous cultures, and so our team lives across what was called Turtle Island, which today is known as Canada. And we really do like to acknowledge the deep ties this land has to Indigenous peoples. For us, especially reconciliation or working with kind of the Indigenous population in Canada is one of our key areas of focus. So who are we and what do we do? So we're a social technology B Corp. So what a B Corp means essentially is we are a for-profit business. We have certain social aspects enshrined in our business. So things like reconciliation, like I mentioned, the good old, do good, don't do any evil, things like that. And so what we really focus on is we want to develop social or technology for the social sector. And so we have three main groups of people that we try and help. One is people seeking help. So if someone is looking to access a shelter, if someone's looking for food support, rent support, that's one group. Then we also try and help the service providers, or those who actually deliver these services. And then finally, we also try and help the decision makers. So those are the funders, the people who try to organize a complex system that this is. So how does this actually, what are we actually trying to solve? I've kind of outlined the groups we help, but what are we trying to do here? So right now, at least in Canada, our system is very fragmented. Research shows, I believe it's, if I remember my numbers correctly, about 93% of service providers in Canada are under 100 people. And so it's small, it's fragmented, there's many service providers. In Canada, we spend about $380 billion per year on this social safety net. And that encompasses about 300,000 services as far as we can see. So that is many groups providing many different services in many different ways. It's gotten even worse with COVID, especially in Canada, because what we found is a number of these service providers have fallen off because funding has changed, they couldn't provide in-person services, things like that. And a number of new ones have cropped up. So this problem has really been exacerbated over the past couple of years. And so some key issues that this kind of has led to in our system is often these services are delivered without end user input. It's often there's a bit of funding, someone's just trying to help. There's not much coordination because they don't know who's providing what, where, or even when. Um, this can also lead to some worsening of systemic inequities because we don't see which groups are really lacking in services. So, for one example, in a town we worked in, all the rehab and addiction services were located outside of town, and there was nothing actually serving this population within town. And so there wasn't the data to show actually we need to co-locate those services with the people who actually need the help. Also meant very fragmented efforts. There's not much coordination. One shelter may not know there's another shelter, across town. There's also much duplication of services and gaps as well, like I mentioned there. And then there's also overlapping. So what we found kind of in our analysis once we've done this work is you can have, let's say, 10, um, 10 groups that provide rent support, but none that actually support that affordable housing. So these are the challenges we're really presented with because people don't know where to go, even within the system. They don't know who's doing what. And that's what we've really tried to tackle with our technology. So when we actually interviewed people in the system, this is kind of our genesis and how we got started, we found that people were saying help is hard to find. You can Google, there might be a few examples, may not be close to you, won't give you all the services in your jurisdiction. There was huge gaps, and people couldn't find what they wanted. What we found too is it would be great if everyone had up-to-date websites and contact info, but this is not the case. A number of service providers do not have any web presence. Um, a lot of this stuff is old, needs to be reconfirmed and readjusted, and people just don't have the time to. Or even just, if you Google, you only get a subset of what you could actually access, which might be newer contact or better contact. The other part people really struggle with too is anonymity. So in this case, let's say if there's a domestic violence case, you don't want in your search history, I need help with abuse. So we need to create a system in which people feel safe and anonymous looking for help. And finally, people don't know what to search, especially if you're not familiar with the social sector. You may not know what something's called. In Canada, we have a very um, large multicultural population, so English may not be your first language as well. So you may not know the technical terms to search. I need rent support and what that means. You might just be searching something like I'm hungry. So what this has led to is what we call our navigation app, which is our kind of technological solution to really help with this problem of navigation and finding help fast. And so what we've done is we've created an app that really, I think, tackles this well overall. And I'll show you a demonstration of this momentarily. So in this case, we have an interactive map where you can search. It has a number of features that lets you search quite easily. Um, we have it in about 22 languages right now. It's anonymous. Really do put a lot of work into our UI UX, so it doesn't require high technical skills to use. And the other key thing is it's geolocation based. And so a key problem can be you can find a shelter, you can find a service, but it is a 20-minute drive away, and that doesn't help you. So we actually look at this in an interactive map that really helps with that system navigation there. So what does this actually look like? So I'm just going to stop this for 1 sec so I can pull this up. Hoping everyone can see this right now of the map. Just please let me know if you can't. So this is where we actually have this interactive system. So you can search, I've got shelter up here, but let's say food bank. You can search that and actually shows by geolocation. So I'm in Edmonton, Canada, so that's what I have up now. So if you were in downtown Edmonton, you can actually zoom in, see who's providing what. We collate all the information. So we have the contact info, description. We also tag these services because unfortunately there's no good system in Canada to tag all these. And so even if you're looking for housing support to one service provider may mean I actually provide you a rental. Another might be I provide you information. Another might be I provide you cash to help with that. So there's really not a good system for that. And so what we've done here is really put all this at your fingertips. And we've also layered on other technologies that really do help with this. So I mentioned if you don't know the technical words, if English is not your first language, how do you search? So if I'm looking for food supports, I might just say I'm hungry because I don't know I need to look for a food bank or a food basket. And so what we've done is implemented some technology that essentially does fuzzy matching. And so we look at not just those direct matches of search terms, but also looking into how you can use different words, different ways to actually get into this. We also work heavily with people who actually live this experience or lived experience. And one of the key pieces of feedback, as I mentioned, we got from there was how can I make this anonymous and how can I make this safe? So we have things like a fast exit. So immediately it just puts you to a news site or weather, just so you can essentially get out. And if someone is looking over your shoulder, you don't have to show them what you're looking at. So the other really interesting part of this is the data we get. Um, and so for the data we get, we actually track how people are using the systems, what listings we have, things like that. And so one of the most interesting things we can do here is once we set up the system, is look at what services are provided where, how much people interact with them on our system, and does it match up? And so what I mean by this is you can see this kind of different areas of services we've highlighted here. So like basic needs, which would be food, shelter, things like that, or health and medical, so that could be addiction, that could be things like medical services, or we have mental health and addictions. Oftentimes communities ask us, how does our system compare to others? So is 30% basic needs normal, or is it more like 50? And we can even break this down further to how people are interacting with this. I will warn you, this is quite a small community I have up here, which is why the numbers are so low. But we also look at things like what are people searching for in this community, um, in general, not just on our system, but on Google, as well as when are people searching, how are they searching, things like that. So the other thing our navigation has done for us really has opened up a whole new layer of data for these communities. And we've seen some amazing things done, from identifying gaps in the system to identifying ways to communicate better with the system. So if there's 1,000 people in your community searching for, what was an example there, transportation, that might signal that your transportation information for your city is not up to par, or people are struggling with it, and that might require a rebrand. So what's interesting here too is we may not have the perfect map, but at least in Canada right now, we have the best map you can get of the social sector, and we're doing this pan Canada. So all provinces and territories. And so what this has really led us to is we can really drill down into individual cities and how they operate in the social sector. So Toronto, you may know of it, biggest city in Canada. We've mapped that city. We know there's about 5,000 entities in the social sector operating. We know roughly they have over 20,000 services, what services they are, when they're provided, um, what criteria they have, things like that. And so what's interesting here is we've opened up a whole new avenue of what we can do with data in the social sector, because before, no one could tell you how many services were in there, what they're providing, and how they were providing it. So this is kind of one of our areas of technology right now, but I'd say the most successful, and the way we've really seen a lot of doors open up. We've done work with this now, from tracking funding flows to what services are providing in a city, which has never been done before in Canada, to doing kind of a gap analysis to find out what's missing, what people want, um, what services aren't being provided today. And so we've been able to do some really interesting follow-up projects after deploying this navigation app in a variety of municipalities. Um, so overall, it's been an interesting journey deploying tech in the sector. Um, but I do want to leave some time for questions here, because I'm sure there'll be a few. It's been a great journey here, and this is kind of the first step we've taken along this technological journey within the social sector. I will end on one comment though. I'm the tech guy at the company. I love my technology, but tech is only part of the puzzle. What I've not talked heavily about here is the people portion of this, the system change portion, which is such a pivotal part of what we do. And so while I've talked about the technology, because I have limited time today, I do want to highlight how we've been successful here is not tech, it's tech and focusing on the people. But I'll pause there and see if there's any questions for me.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Actually, one of the things I've been wondering, when you talk about these mapping, these opportunities, put them on a map, it makes also probably showing a difference what kind of things on services or something could be. If I would live in another community, just a municipality next doors. So I'm asking this because in Latvia, it is quite popular reality that different municipalities, because of not everyone is as rich as, for example, Mārupe, do provide a kind of less social services. And this is by law. So that people make these choices, sometimes even registering themselves, not really living there, but kind of pretending just to be, on a paper in the register. So apply for extra services. So when you map these opportunities, do you have also this kind of movement? Let's say we call it tourism of social welfare, but internal tourism, of course.
That's a very good question. We've not seen any data for that yet. But what's interesting is some of our biggest partners are national groups. Like we have CMHC, which is a national group in Canada that helps with housing across the country.
Yeah.
And why they're most interested in our map is exactly what you're talking about, is they want to reduce homelessness to zero. So they want to highlight those communities that have less services,
yes,
that are kind of not driving change, not driving a reduction in homelessness. So we've not seen kind of that tourism aspect yet, but what we have seen is people actually using that data to say, one neighborhood is doing amazingly well and is providing these services and another isn't. How do we change that? But that is a risk we face, I think.
Yeah, of course, surely. Now, listen, sorry, it would be very nice chat, especially if it's intercontinental for us. Now for us it's night time, and for you it's just middle of the day. You still have to do some things, so I have to let you go. Nevertheless, stay for 20 more minutes. It will be interesting because we will call in to Tel Aviv, to Israel once again during today. But all the best. Merry Christmas anyway, Matt. They are so nice and snowy, most probably in Canada, as we also hopefully will have one day. Nevertheless, we will, by the way, beat you once more. In ice hockey, but this will be later in the future. Well, anyway, now.